that bad. I mean, I figured you had something.
Yeah, you weren't going to call the river, and I wasn't like in a mood to kind of check the river.
And the look of the silent man speaks volumes.
Phil's life coach certainly earning his money today.
Action will begin on Phil Hellmuth here on hand 66. Yeah, get rid of it. The loose cannon, Ernest Wiggins. Jack 9 offsuit, limps in.
Says Jack 9's his favorite hand.
This isn't a bad hand for Daniel Negreanu, pocket kings.
Let's see if he can make them as profitable as Ernest did.
A raise to 1,600. Doyle gets rid of his hand. Phil Laak makes the call.
I'm gonna check out this time. What a beautiful hand. Look at that, Phil. You would play this. You would play this every time.
And a fold by Tony G.
16 more, right?
16 total, 12 more.
Wants to see a flop with his favorite hand.
He's playing. Makes the call. 3 players to the flop. 7-9 Jack.
And Ernest's favorite hand connects over Daniel's pocket kings.
Check by Laak.
22.
Ernest has flopped top 2 pair.
Double up.
And bets 2,200.
Ernest hasn't let out at many flops. Daniel just going to call, play it cautiously.
Phil Laak with a flush draw. Also makes the call.
Ernest breathing very heavy here. He knows he's got a big hand.
The turn, the 10 of clubs.
Daniel's now picked up a gut shot straight draw to go with his overcards.
Check by Laak. A check by Wiggins.
It's a very wet board now. There's a lot of draws out there.
Negreanu bets 10,000.
Negreanu wanted to bet big enough here to chase out anyone who may be drawing. Like Phil Laak, who's only drawing to his 6 high flush. Ernest not going anywhere with his 2 pair.
The loose cannon makes the call. Off to the river. The 5 of spades. Check by Wiggins.
Oh, Daniel, come on,
I'm thinking about maybe just doubling you up real good.
Ernest let out on the flop, then called the turn. Say what you will about the guy, but he hasn't been chasing a lot of draws, so Daniel has to know Ernest has a real hand.
I check.
2 pairs. Jack 9.
I knew it.
Favorite hand. Jack 9. Poopy.
I think it would have worked.
I mean, a real hefty bet, honestly. You know, I'm thinking like, I'm thinking maybe got an 8.
I had 2 kings, man.
Ernest rakes in a pot of over 32 grand, and look out, the loose cannon's firing on all cylinders. He's looking good and feeling good, Mortimer. More when we come back.
Welcome back. Do you think you can beat this game? For a chance to be a loose cannon and play on the big game this season, log on to PokerStars.net. There are free qualifying tournaments every day. Now let's get back to the action.
Thank you, Amanda. In fact, you can see stats of every hand at this table, as well as bonus hands and footage deemed too hot for TV on the website.
He played it perfect.
Action starts with Phil Laak, who folds.
Then you would have showed Phil.
Ace-Jack offsuit for Tony G, who raises to $1,000.
And I went to lost this much. Yeah, you.
Phil folds.
Yeah, but if I just run it once, he's gone.
As does Ernest Wiggins. Daniel folds.
Small raise from Tony. Doyle's going to defend out of the big blind.
That would have been good if you called. If you raised 30 and you
4 Queen 5, pair of clubs on the board.
Check it.
Okay.
Check by Brunson and a check by Tony G.
Doyle's paired his 5.
Deuce of diamonds on the turn. Bet of 3,000 by Doyle.
Doyle's also got a gut shot.
And Tony G lays it down.
Yeah, hallelujah.
He's on a heater.
You've done it.
Hallelujah, he said. Doyle's going to get it in soon. I can feel it.
That's my third.
You're getting it in within the next 2 rounds.
I think you're right.
You're going to race something.
It's hard to race when you pot limit for the flop.
Hey, Doyle, why's your hat on backwards?
Oops.
Is it a rally cap?
I was going to say, I thought you took your logo off.
You just won a pot. You better go back.
Oh, that was the rally cap. Put it back.
That's funny. Oh, that's funny.
Phil Hellmuth lays down his hand.
We're doing a round of straddles? Is that what that is?
I'm doing a round of straddle.
You're
I'm doing
a
a straddle.
Doyle said if he won a hand, he was going to be
I'm
in
losing,
there.
I'm not straddling.
Looks like we might be in it.
Straddle if you want
Now
to.
he's using an excuse because he's losing.
I'm losing. Everybody else straddles when they're losing.
Daniel raises to 3,000.
Okay. Rally's gone.
Yeah. You thought if you could have a rush that.
Action folds over to Tony G, who makes the call.
2 strong hands going into the flop.
Queen 6 Jack.
King of the world.
Check by Tony G.
Tony G's missed. Daniel's going to fire with top 2.
Bets 5,500.
Tony's looking to make a call here. Tony has 2 overcards, even though they're no good. He's really only looking for a 10 to make a gut shot.
There it is.
Faster, you can say Andrew Lloyd Webber. Tony checks his Broadway. He's got the stone nuts right now.
Daniel bets 14 grand. A raise to 50,000 by Tony G.
A quick raise of 50,000. Tony's the kind of player that could be doing this with a worst 2 pair. He could be doing it with a draw. He could be doing it with flat out nothing. But a raise that big, that fast, usually means only one of 2 things: a monster hand or a monster bluff.
Daniel makes the call.
Tony using his hand to keep his mouth closed because it's probably watering right now.
The river gives Daniel a full house.
Now, even though Daniel knows he has the best hand, he's still trying to put Tony on a hand.
Tony checks.
By determining Tony's hand, he can judge how big a bet Tony will be willing to call here on the river. Daniel wants to make Tony G the honorary mayor of Value Town.
Bet 80.
Negreanu makes it 80,000 to go. Snap call from Tony.
Negreanu shows him the bad news, hands him the keys of the city.
You had ace king. Jeez.
Yeah. Well done, Daniel. Well done. Thank you.
Sick one there.
And I had a
I didn't think he had ace king.
No, I know.
You played it good.
Nice dealer.
Sorry, Tony. You played it good.
I know that. Too easy for you.
Daniel rakes in a pot of more than 278 grand, the largest we've seen so far in the big game.
I didn't think he had 8-9 or ace king.
Beautiful.
Tony G talking to himself. That's going to happen when you lose almost 140 grand on one hand. We are halfway home on the big game, and after the last hand, Daniel is way up, Tony G is way down. Doyle Brunson also continues to take it on the chin, and the loose cannon Ernest Wiggins, he gets to keep anything over 100,000. He is up almost 70 grand.
Alongside Joe Stapleton, I'm Chris Rose. And Joe, one of the unique elements of this show is that we're tracking statistics, which gives us the ability to explain how these players are approaching the game.
Chris, it's a very small sample size, but there are some interesting trends developing. First, we'll take a look at the VPIP, or voluntarily putting money in the pot. This stat gauges how often a player willingly enters a pot pre-flop.
So basically, it shows us how loose a player is playing.
Yes, and as you can see, Tony G is playing the most hands so far, nearly 60%, and Daniel's playing nearly half his hands. No surprise, Daniel's VPIP is high. He's sitting directly to the left of the loose cannon, so more often than not, when the amateur's in, so is Daniel. Might also explain why Daniel has the highest pre-flop raise percentage. Daniel's really taking advantage of his position on the least experienced player at the table, Ernest, who, as you can see, is playing very passively.
Well, Ernest has really been getting pushed around. He's lucky to be ahead in this game.
The poker brat would say he's lucky to still be in this game.
All right, so that is pre-flop. Joe, what about after the flop?
Check this out. That's where aggression factor comes into play, and we calculate that simply by adding the number of bets and raises and then dividing by the number of calls. So far, Tony G has bet or raised 5 times more than he has called post-flop, by far the highest at the table.
Unfortunately for Tony G, his aggression isn't paying off.
He's winning only 25% of his showdowns, but I'm sure Doyle would take it. His showdown win percentage is a big fat 0. For Tony G, loose and aggressive becomes very risky when you're getting no respect and having to showdown often, especially if you're not getting any cards.
All right, Joe, remember, we are just halfway home at this point, so it'll be interesting to see if these trends continue.
We got a live straddle over here.
We can do that. We can do that. That'd be cool.
You know what? He's Phil, this man right here is showing you up. Like, big time.
Yep.
Yeah,
He's straddling.
Show me up.
He's straddling right now, okay? He's straddling right now.
That's only for the game, man. It's only for the game, man.
I like him. You're trying to cause trouble.
Yeah. I'm just calling you out.
You're trying to cause
I'm
trouble.
calling out because, you know, you're the NIT right here. The N to the I to the T.
Come on, what's $800 to the great Phil Hellmuth? Practically Bays and Cristal.
Doyle is raised to 3,000. Phil Laak on the button, 6-4 suited. Makes the call. Tony G folds. Steaming. Phil folds. Suited connectors for Ernest Wiggins, the straddler.
Looks like Ernest is actually calculating the size of the pot. Maybe his girlfriend / poker coach Rabbit gave him a lesson in pot odds during halftime.
It'll be 3 players on the flop. Comes out King 9-10.
Doyle's flop best with a pair of 9s.
Check.
Ernest checks. Doyle checks.
Phil looking to take a stab here in position.
Phil bets 6,200.
I'm out of there. Nah, you got it, man. Go ahead. You got it by me.
Ernest folds.
Raise. What's poker?
A check raise by Doyle Brunson.
There's only one move he's really got here.
Bet it all.
He goes all in.
Whether Doyle's frustrated or just senses weakness, he's looking to double up.
You probably got me beat. 10, 20, 5.
Be tough to not have you beat Phil. You have 6 high.
Wish I had a draw. I would call.
I knew you had 2 little cards.
2 little cards?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too good.
King and spades.
Doyle showed an 8.
No, there wasn't no kings in my pan.
The jack 8 makes sense.
Wasn't no jacks.
I was owned.
The 7-8 makes sense.
I knew you didn't come in there with no 2 big cards on top of that. See how smart I am?
I was owned.
Internet players would have said, based on your range, on the calculations I've made of your PFR, there's clearly no way you had 2 pictures, right? That's what Doyle just said. I knew you never did have no big cards.
I didn't think he did that time.
That hurt. 10K down.
I'm sorry. I want to win a pot before this day's over.
You did it.
Now, Doyle's not going to play this one. Ace-3 suited for Laak.
I wish you'd had a draw, too.
Raises to 3,000. Tony G calls. So does Phil Hellmuth. The loose cannon, Ernest Wiggins, gets rid of his hand. And the straddler calls.
This is a good opportunity to, if I can win this pot, I'd be
This
de-steamed
is the
one hand
exact situation where you won with Ace-3 of spades. Except you limped and he raised.
Nice read, Phil. I guess he's been getting life coaching from Obi-Wan Kenobi.
3 King 10 on the flop. Goes check, check, check over to Tony G. He bets 7,000.
Betting his flush draw. Hellmuth calls with top pair.
Daniel folds.
Deja vu. Deja vu. Look at that, Daniel.
Bottom pair not good enough for Phil.
That's sick.
Down to 2 players on the turn, which is the 6 of diamonds. A check by Hellmuth. Bet of 25,000 by Tony G.
It's a big, big bet. All Tony's picked up here is another draw. He's got a flush draw and a gut shot draw.